I'm gonna mute.
Something more than a joyride. Keep calm, let your soul speak. Keep strumming, I'm strumming these heartstrings. Shine in the moonlight, visions of flickering flash. Cliche, call it Genesis. We don't wait for the exodus. No, wait like a feather. Wait like a feather. Wait like a feather. Wait like a feather. Sun, she gonna lift you up, show you the other side and wake you up in paradise. Here come the rising sun, she gonna lift you up, show you the other side and wake you up in paradise.
So let's get down to business. This is a countdown timer to the March equinox. As you can see, it will occur in just over 7 days' time. The equinox is when the sun is directly over the Earth's equator. For 6 months of the year, the sun is over the northern hemisphere. For the other 6 months, it is over the southern hemisphere. The sun will cross the equator twice each year, once in September and once in March. And when that occurs, we call it the equinox. And the reason we have the 2 equinoxes each year is due to the tilt of the Earth and the orbit of the Earth around the sun. As we know, the Earth tilts at just over 23 degrees, and as it orbits the sun, that angle really doesn't change. But what is changing is the orientation of the Earth's tilt with respect to the sun. You can see here, during the summer solstice, the North Pole is tilted closer towards the sun. During the winter solstice, it is the South Pole that is facing closer towards the sun. During the 2 equinoxes, the vernal equinox and the autumnal equinox, the tilt is neither towards or away from the sun, and therefore it has absolutely no effect on the sun's apparent movement across the sky.
I just wanna get it right.
And therefore it has absolutely no effect on the sun's apparent movement across the sky. Now this geometry creates a very interesting situation that allows us to observe the sun moving in a straight line from sunrise to sunset. Another way to demonstrate this is with an equatorial plate sundial. It only happens on the day of the equinox. On any other day, we see a curve in the path of the sun. The motion of the sun will appear to be in a straight line. During other times of the year, the observer is no longer at the center of this circle, and therefore they will see curve in the path of the sun. On the day of the equinox, if you orientate that hoop at an angle from vertical equal to your latitude and hold it up to the sun will actually trace a path exactly along the edge of the hula hoop. With your eye at the center, that appears to be a straight line, and that is exactly the path that the sun will appear to follow. Unfortunately, based on past experiences with flat earthers and the equinox, I don't think any of them are going to understand this. The geometry of what I have just demonstrated is quite impossible.
We are live. I'm Ronnie Harris of the Limitless Channel, and I'm joined tonight by Jason Laufenberg of the Awake Souls YouTube channel. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. What a fantastic, fun Sunday night. That was awesome, brother.
Yeah, that was a fun intro, right?
I love these intros now. We're dropping tracks with people's words attached to them, and they have significance, like deep significance, and this is like 3 for 3 or something right now. Did you just pull a hat trick?
I might have. It's been fun. I like the music intros. I like sharing people's words. It's something that I look forward to doing, and it has to be inspirational too. My content, the artist work that I do, it's never like I can sit in the editor and force something, but when it's truly something that I enjoy, it has to be inspired. I just have to like get into this creative mode, and we work together well. You had chosen a bunch of the clips for Wolfie. We worked as a team to put them together, and I'm getting a little better with the editor. I started to bring some of my glitch effects. I think I overdid it a little bit. I'm still learning how to use this editor, but I enjoyed it. I don't know how many people are bringing out content like we do for every hangout with tailored words and intro videos with the banger tracks. I've got playlists on my channel. It's called Ronnie's New Hits. You start at the end and you go backwards if you want to hear the newest stuff first. And we're going to continue to try to come up with the best musical content as well as the most truthful podcasts on the interwebs. That's always been our goal. So tonight we're going to be discussing the equinox, so we can actually calculate our Lord's evening meal. There's a new moon happening right now in the sky, so we're now looking for the equal day and night and the sunrise due east and set due west, and we're going to be able to calculate the feast of the Lord's final supper, right?
Yeah, so it's equinox, everybody. Well, equinox week. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to go through the details of how it is you determine when the equinox is. We actually have the help of Wolfie6020. Again, it's ridiculous how many times we've had to point to Wolfie6020 for evidence that is true and actual. And we're going to be doing it again. He's using it to debunk the Freemason New World Order AE map and model, which I really think he probably learned all the debunks from us. But he's actually the person that goes out and puts the video together, for which that I appreciate. So Once again, shout outs to Wolfie6020 for giving us the content to be able to debunk not only just the Freemasonic New World Order AE map and model, but he gave us the evidence to debunk the globe as well. So this is going to be fantastic. It's super enjoyable to be able to go through content like this. We've been covering these topics for like over 3.5 years. It's going to be 4 years and not too long. And so this is really just a regurgitation of things that we figured out almost 4 years ago. So there's not like a ton of preparation that Ronnie and I have to go through for a hangout like this. It's really just, we're going to show you the graphics, the visuals, where you can go to be able to get the information that you need to be able to determine these things for yourself. And they're really grassroots, foundational type things that I'm going to assert right now that if you don't understand the equinox, you're not rooted in this reality. You have to understand the equinox. You have to understand that on the equator, on the equinox, you're going to have a shadow that's, the sun's going to rise east and the shadow is going to be directly due west. It's going to be 90 to 70. That's the way the shadow is going to be cast. It's going to come up. It's going to come to a point where no shadow is cast. We're talking about a place on the equator, on the equinox. And then the sun's going to come down to a sunset in the west, and the shadow is going to be cast back to 90 degrees east. And this is what we would call a straight line. This is foundational because there's only one place on earth that this happens twice a year. And you have to know and understand how this works, because that knowledge right there debunks the Freemason New World Order AE map and model, and it debunks the globe. We're going to be debunking both tonight. We're going to be showing the proof that we're in a simulation, just like we always do. But this week is special because this equinox is we've really focused on determining the true Hebrew calendar. And one of the things that we understand is that we're looking for the next new moon after the equinox. And you said that tonight, this is supposed to be new moon tonight, right? So this is coming in before the equinox. What we're going to go through tonight is sometime this week, and that's the reason why we wanted to cover it tonight, is that sometime this week, the equinox is going to take place. And there's all these different ways that we can prove it. Sundials are just absolutely foundational to this. I want to play a clip where Adam Fink, Parable of the Vineyard, tells his audience to go get a sundial, and that this is foundational as far as understanding when the equinox is, but he won't tell people how to use it, because as soon as they understand how to use it, it absolutely obliterates the Freemason New World Order AE map and model. So we've got Wolfie that wants us to pay attention to equinox sundials, equatorial sundials, and we're going to show people how they work within your circle of sight. We've got all these amazing tools. There's really so much great information and content to go through tonight. I'm just worried about missing some of the stuff that is so super important to the topic, but I don't know, we just got to have patience, go through it, take our time, and hopefully there's questions from the chat that will, if there's something that you're missing that we're covering, please say something. I want to be able to catch it, and I want to be able to go through it and make sure that everybody is getting these things that as we move on. I'm going to be asking questions at certain points to the chat, saying, please, like, respond that you get these points as we're moving on, because it's all foundational truth. Brother?
Yeah, so just discussing what the equinox is the day where night and day is equal. It happens twice a year, right? In the spring and in the fall. And it's when the sun actually passes the equator in the sky for its east to west, north to south path, right? So we can calculate by the length of the day and the length of the night, as well as we can calculate with a compass the 9270. That's what we're looking for. And it happens.
Yes. So that's one of the things that we're going to be showing people, is that when we go to research sites like timeanddate.com, And we're going to be looking for when to expect the equinox this year. And it's not going to be on the 20th like everybody says. So many, like the Catholic Church's calendar is fixed in a way that they keep Easter on Sunday each and every year. In order to achieve that, they have to manipulate things in convoluted ways.
Yes.
Right. So there's where was I going with that?
Convoluted ways of getting the days correct.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to go through. So should we get into screen shares? Is there more that you want to talk about on camera? Or
No. Yeah, we totally can, brother. Let me get the thumbnail up here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. All the lurkers, we love you. Everybody in the chat, we love you too. All the haters, we love you guys too. Let's get this. You're going to go with the screen share, right, bro?
Sure.
Jason, you've got to update your Zoom picture.
Is it out of date?
I can only say that because I updated mine. I'm just trolling him, everybody. Let me get the screen share up here. Sorry, bro.
I think it is out of date.
A little bit. You look a little different now with your hair, just like I looked a lot different. Let me see here. Yeah, so how's everyone doing? The chat's pretty quiet, but you are now presenting. Not too much going on. It's a slower night, but that's to be expected. We haven't been on much.
Yeah, so that's another topic because work is busy and we're self-funded. We don't ask for any donations or Patreon or anything like that. We have to work to provide for ourselves, and so this is the time of year that gets busy. And so I'm worried that the Wednesdays are going to become less and less possible of us doing hangouts. We'll still do them if we can, but that would most likely be the first day to come out of the week, and then of course Fridays could also possibly as well. So Sundays are they're like an anchor, a pick point where we know that we can always be available on Sundays. So we have that for sure, but just be prepared, people, that because life is busy, Wednesdays and Fridays might become a little bit more scarce during the busy part of the year. And then as we get into the less busy part of the year, they would be able to open up again. So I just want to remind people of Adam Fink. You know, like I told him I'm going to poster boy him, and I meant it, because he told people to go out and get sundials. And he told them that this was like hidden sacred knowledge, but he's not telling people how to use them, and I know why. So I want to remind everybody of Adam Fink's words right here.
No, that's exactly what I was trying to say earlier, is we don't need stellarium. I'm just showing you stellarium because it's easy to show you, and I can go forwards in years and backwards in years. The ancients knew when the spring equinox came, so to start the year and the month, the sun will have to go through the fourth gate, the spring equinox, which go on eBay, go on Amazon, buy a $10 sundial, and you're done. That's it, it's over. But they even know further than that, because they knew exactly the position of the sun when it entered in the spring equinox, and they knew that the division of the night and day were exactly equal. Again, this is a lost understanding, but really in today's world you can fix all that. Just buy a sundial. They had sundials back then. I think it's in Isaiah, it talks about the sundial of Ahaz. So they knew to check the sundial for the sun to go back 10 degrees, right? I think it was Ahaz, I think. So they had sundials back then. We can have sundials right now. So that's a non-issue. I'm just showing you on stellarium because it's easy for me to show you from the comfort of my computer, and I can go back 19 years, I can go forward 19 years because it all follows the sun, moon, stars, they all follow a mathematical and repeatable pattern. So that's why it was easy to show you.
All right, so take the audio off of here, and he's sitting there reading the chat. He responds to Tactically Tora below me. Let me get my promos on. How's that? So he just moves on after this, doesn't respond to me. But the point of all this is that he told his audience to go get a sundial. He's like, it's going to cost you $10 on eBay or whatever, Amazon. But he's not going to teach people how to use them because it destroys the entire concept of the Freemason New World Order AE map and model. And so this is a Sunday night. This is actually like a spiritual lesson tonight because we're working on isolating the true Hebrew biblical calendar. And to do that, you have to isolate the equinox. This is equinox week. We want to make sure everybody understands how to figure out what the equinox is. And to do that, one of the things that we're going to do is use Wolfie6020, a heliocentric shill that points out some of the true observable things that we can all witness. And then at the same time, we're going to be able to expose that the heliocentric model that he's promoting is impossible. So we get the double whammy tonight, and it's going to be fun. So the first part is all about his, he's in quarantine, right? He was in Texas. He was in Texas during the Great Freeze, and now he's in quarantine back in Australia. And he thought in his free time, in this quarantine, that he was going to give it to the flat earthers, right? So this is what he came up with. Has to do with the equinox. This is really my first proof type video. Had to do with the equinox, and it's core. It's fundamental. You really need to understand everything about the equinox, and we're going to present it all tonight. So stay tuned.
Inconvenience. So let's get down to business. This is a countdown timer to the March equinox. As you can see, it will occur in just over 7 days' time. The equinox is when the sun is directly over the Earth's equator. For 6 months of the year, the sun is over the northern hemisphere. For the other 6 months, it is over the southern hemisphere. The sun will cross the equator twice each year, once in September and once in March. And when that occurs, we call it the equinox. And the reason we have the two equinoxes each year is due to the tilt of the Earth and the orbit of the Earth around the sun. As we know, the Earth...
All right, so this is the heliocentric explanation for this. And let me see what I need to do here. I want to... Can I zoom this a little bit? I want people to be able to see what it is that he has up here on the screen. If you just type equinox into Google, you're going to come up with a bunch of images like this. So he's going to go into an explanation, but I want to pre-explain it so that when he explains it, you already perceive the whole thing. So what we have here is the North Pole. See, it's coming out. You got North America here. Everybody spots that. North Pole, we're talking about the top side of the globe. This is at a 23.5 degree tilt to this Earth's orbit right here. This circle right here, we can refer to as the ecliptic. So the ecliptic, where is... Let's just take this part out here. The ecliptic is the plane of Earth's orbit. So the two words are interchangeable. Super important to understand that when it says Earth's orbit here, we can replace that with ecliptic. This is a plane right here. So one of the things that we notice when we're looking at this is that the equator, the red line, is tilted at 23.5 degrees to that plane. It is when it is side on right here at the equinoxes, and it is at the summer and winter solstices. This right here debunks heliocentrism right now, but let's listen to his explanation, and we will continue to debunk the heliocentric position the entire way.
It tilts at just over 23 degrees, and as it orbits the sun, that angle really doesn't change. But what is changing is the orientation of the Earth's tilt with respect to the sun. You can see here, during the summer solstice, the North Pole is tilted closer towards the sun. During the winter solstice, it is the South Pole that is facing closer towards the sun.
And so they do this whole graphic here as an explanation for summer and winter in the northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. So they do this depiction with the axis right here tilted towards the sun, like sort of like straight on towards the sun here, this side profile, and there's summer and winter, right? And then the sideways position, where it's sideways to the sun, because this is not supposed to change because we have star trails. You can focus your camera, take long exposure photographs of Polaris, and get perfect circular star trails around Polaris. So this right here, you can see that the equator is at a 23.5 degree side-on tilt to the ecliptic.
During the two equinoxes, the vernal equinox and the autumnal equinox, the tilt is neither towards or away from the sun, and therefore it has absolutely no effect on the sun's apparent movement across the sky.
Absolutely no effect on the sun's apparent movement across the sky. So that right there was the key psyop terms of this video. That's where the psyop took place. Let's hear it one more time.
Effect on the sun's apparent movement.
Go back one more.
And therefore it has absolutely no effect on the sun's apparent movement across the sky.
BS.
Now this geometry creates a very interesting situation that allows us to observe the sun moving in a straight line from sunrise to sunset. It only happens on the day of the equinox,
and it only happens at the equator. Only. We're going to show the proof of that tonight over and over and over again. It only happens on the equinox, and it only happens at the equator. In the diagram that you were just showing us proved that heliocentrism is a crock of crap.
Any other day, we see a curve in the path of the sun. Now, to understand why this is so, we need to consider a circle.
It's not only any other day, it's any other location. We're going to show another psyop within the psyop.
A circle is round. I think we can all agree on that. But if you are located directly at the center of that circle and looking at its edge, you will only see a straight line. Let me demonstrate. So this is one of my earlier videos where I used a hula hoop to demonstrate that the sun is moving in a straight line on the day of the equinox. We know that the hula hoop is curved.
So straight line is going to become a big term here. Straight line. We're going to talk about what real straight lines are a lot. And the straight lines that he's going to propose aren't going to be real straight lines.
But if we look at that hoop edge on, we only see a straight line. And again, from the center of that hoop, looking in any direction, we can only see the hoop as a straight line. On the day of the equinox, if you orientate that hoop at an angle from vertical equal to your latitude and hold it up to the sun will actually trace a path exactly along the edge of the hula hoop. With your eye at the center, that appears to be a straight line, and that is exactly the path.
No, it's not true. With your eye at the center, only on the equinox, he's going to show that. But yes, the hula hoop can be used all the time to trace out the path of the sun in our circle of sight. That's not a problem. It's the straight line thing. And the straight line only happens on the equinoxes at the equator. That's the only time straight lines ever happen. We're going to bang on that point.
That the sun will appear to follow. And another way to demonstrate this is with an app called Sun Surveyor, which shows the path of the sun as it would appear from any location on Earth on any day of the year. It is currently set to Sydney, Australia, on the day of the equinox. The observer's position is this green icon.
It's the straight line thing.
He is located at the center of the circle. The motion of the sun will appear to be in a straight line. We can see that clearly.
It's not a straight line. If you are the observer in the center, this path right here, where it's going around like that, is not a straight line. You can actually see that in the shadows. We're going to show that it's not a straight line when you're looking at it from the observer's position. He's going to rotate this, and he's going to show us this side-on and an orthographic view, which is never, ever obtainable in what we call reality. You're never going to see an orthographic view of anything ever. You're always going to be the observer, the green person in the center. So this is not a straight line. The only straight line on the image right now is the one between the horizons, right? Between east and west. This is the equinox. This is the straight line down here. The straight line is not up in the sky, regardless whether or not it traces around while the person on the ground is in a straight line side to side. So this is it's great software, this Sun Surveyor. Check it out. I went to their YouTube channel. Here's their first video. It's a it tells you sort of about the product a little bit, and this kind of stuff right here, if you can see that modeling. Let's go back to over a neighborhood. So this is the map view. If we look at something like this, it puts you in like the Google Earth type view, and it shows you in your circle of sight. You see where this orange line is? You see where these blue lines are? This is the path of the sun and moon based on time of day around the observer. So as you move this green position around on the map, it's always the same. It's the same angles, unless if you're going north and south, these angles will be changing. If you're going east and west, the timing of the position in the sky is going to change. But this shows the path around the observer anywhere on Earth. And you can even 3D augment this to use your camera. Where is that? Back here.
Yeah, it's really an exceptional app. I do like the way they've built this. I like the way they integrate it with maps and showing you the rise and set positions. If you're a photographer, if you have something like this, you can really line up your shots really well.
Yeah, so 3D augmented, where it's using the camera and it's projecting. What this is latitude and longitude. This is showing you sunrise and sunset right here. So I guess it was before that. They don't show a whole lot of this. This technology right here is just like the technology of that website that we continue to show people. We'll be showing people tonight that it'll show you the rise and set angles off of any sort of post. you have something sticking up out of the ground, it's going to cast a shadow when the sun rises and when it comes up to its zenith and when it comes back down to its set. And those lines tell us something. The hidden knowledge that Adam Fink was talking about is in understanding what those shadows mean. So let's go back.
If we look edge on to the circle. Now this is only true on the day of the equinox.
It's not a straight path.
And only true at the equator, when this would be directly straight up and over a person's head. That's the only time you get a straight line ever. Now he's going to show other examples of not straight lines, but the only straight line of shadows, and Ronnie had it in the intro video, has to be at the equator, where when the sun rises on the equinox and sets on the equinox, it's 90-70, and it's a straight line the whole path. It's the only time and only place.
During other times of the year, the observer is no longer at the center of this circle, and therefore they will see curve in the path of the sun. This is in the Sydney summer, and this is in the Sydney winter, where the sun is lower in the sky, the days are shorter, but again the observer is not at the center of that circle. It is only on the day of the equinox that the sun appears to move in a straight line. Another way to demonstrate this is with an equatorial plate sundial. Now this is an interesting design, and it needs to be polar aligned in the same way that an equatorial mount for a telescope is aligned. The equatorial plate sundial has a plate with time markings on either side and a central gnomon, which is what actually casts the shadow. Now this gnomon needs to be oriented according to latitude. At the equator, it will be horizontal. At the poles, it will be vertical. And in between, the angle is going to match the latitude. What is interesting about this design is that for 6 months of the year, one side of the plate will be in sunlight while the other is in shadow. For the other 6 months, the opposite side is in sunlight while the first side remains in shadow.
All right, so it's a great point to make. So when you have a sundial like this that's set where its angle is set where it's polar aligned, right? So if there was a sight glass through this center gnomon right here, you'd be lining it up to the south celestial pole or to the north, either one. If you did that, because of this orientation, half of the year the sun is going to shine on one side. 2 days of the year it's going to run the rim of this, and then the other half of the days it's going to shine on the other side. Look, it's even on this lower back side here. This is fact. This is how you can determine the equinox. We're not denying that. This is the hidden knowledge that Adam Fink does not want you to know, is understanding this.
The changeover occurs on the 2 equinoxes, one in March and one in September, and on those days neither side of this plate will receive sunlight because the sun is directly in line with the edge of the sundial plate. And another interesting fact is that the time scale is spaced at 15 degrees for every hour, because we know that the Earth rotates at a steady 15 degrees per hour with respect to the sun.
No, we know that the sky rotates 15 degrees per hour, and that every single one of these setups are based off of flat, level ground, not off of curvature whatsoever. So this has nothing to do with heliocentrism. In fact, the heliocentrism was debunked in his graphic earlier. We'll bring it up again.
The sun. And because this gnomon is aligned with the Earth's rotational axis, the sundial itself is rotating at the same 15 degrees per hour. And that is why we see the shadow.
We are watching the sun, moon, and stars rotate around in our sky at 15 degrees per hour. Moon a little bit different.
Reliably indicating the correct time throughout the day. So we'll take a look at a real equatorial sundial shortly, but I just want to make you aware of this website, blocklayer.com. Here you can print a template to create your own equatorial sundial, and it also has a nice graphic that helps us visualize the orientation of the sundial with respect to the Earth's rotational axis.
Now, all this stuff makes sense if you set it down on a flat plane, just like all the tools, like this thing right here, right? Everything's set on a flat plane. Well, let me find another graphic where you can see it.
It's one of the issues that we have, right?
Right here in 3D space, this is all built to a flat plane. This is not a curved plane that this is all built around. Every single one of the calculations of the path of the sun, moon, and stars is done to a flat plane with azimuth and elevation settings, altitude. That's it. That's what each one of these shots are.
Here is the sundial, and you will notice that the gnomon will always remain parallel to the Earth's rotational axis, no matter where we are on the surface of the Earth. As we move from the equator to the pole, the orientation of the sundial is not changing with respect to this axis.
See, we absolutely agree with this. If you unwrap this right here from being a globe, if you unwrap it into a stereographic map, and then based on latitude and longitude, you do all these calculations, this is right.
That's how you would, navigate the flat plane. You would use those rise and set angles and the declination of the sun, and that would calculate your position north or south, right? And this is how we would do it. This is the way that the Chinese first sailors and a bunch of different people in history, this is how they charted the waters. Now, they didn't do it thinking they were living on a globe. They took their measurements off of the flat horizon. They measured off of that spot up into the sky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we don't deny any of this. It's just this representation of it on a globe. You take this into a stereographic map to, lay it out flat, and then the latitude and longitude, these will give you these calculations. That's how it works.
The lower part of this graphic is showing the sundial as it would appear to an observer at each location. On the equator, the sundial surface plate is vertical and the gnomon is horizontal. As we move to the poles...
All right, hold on. That's the one place he showed on the equator, on the equinox. This is the only straight line you're ever going to see. So on the equator, it's going to be coming in from with this equatorial sundial, right? The one that's going to be a disc, and it's going to have the gnomon out like that. It's going to be coming in, and it's going to be showing on one side of it when it's south. It's going to get to the equinox, and it's going to run the rim, and then it's going to go beyond that, and it's going to be illuminating the other side of the disc. So that right there is the surefire means of identifying the equinox. That's just rock bottom, solid, bang. There's no questions about it, because we're going to show you the sources that we have to go to try to identify the actual equinox. We're looking at two different factors. We're looking at equal daylight, which would be 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night, and we're looking for 90 to 70. So the information that we're given, there's variations in it, and it varies based on the daylight, it varies based on the angles, and it varies based on location. So we want to show everybody all that, but this is still going to be equinox week. We're going to have the equinox during this week right here, and then we're going to be looking for the first sighting of the new moon. So there's just a little bit more left in this, I guess.
The gnomon is horizontal. As we move to the poles, that plate becomes horizontal and the gnomon is vertical. At any intermediate latitude, the angle is going to be proportional to the latitude. It also shows us the position of the sun. On the equinox, the sun is directly in line with the sundial plate. For 6 months of the year, it is to one side, and for the other 6 months, it is positioned on the other side. And that explains the alternating 6 months of illumination and shadow on the sundial. So here is an equatorial sundial that I built from a kit purchased on eBay for about $10. As you can see,
So this is maybe the kind of thing that Adam Fink was telling his audience to purchase. And I say, do it. Do it, everybody. We're told $10 for something like this. He had to sort of put it together himself. I think it's good for people to do a little home ec project like that. It's going to tell you when the equinox is. So all you have to do is figure out what latitude you're at, and you're going to set the angle here based off of this side flap, and then you're going to set this and align it to north and come in. So this one's set up for the southern hemisphere. He's going to tell you about this. You would have it set up reversed with northern hemisphere out if you're building this in the northern hemisphere. But what's going to happen is coming in, you're going to have the one side being illuminated, and then you're going to have a day where it's going to run the rim of this, and then after that, it's going to illuminate the other side. And so this is literally the gates of Enoch, that 6 gates, not 7, that that we've been highlighting in this 3D modeling program that show the path of the sun within your circle of sight, where it rises on the horizon based on the time of year, based on latitude. These fundamental truths help a person isolate and identify that the path of the sun is completely local to the observer, where it's not happening at any distance greater than you can actually see. If you can just see 20 miles to the horizon, the sun's not rising farther than that. It has to be within your circle of sight. So the higher you go, the larger circle of sight you have, but it's always confined to your circle of sight. You can't see more than your circle of sight. That is just the limit.
the time scale represents 24 hours in 360 degrees. That is 15 degrees per hour, the same rate at which the Earth rotates.
The sky rotates.
Each side of the plate is labelled. This one, Southern Hemisphere, and the other side, Northern Hemisphere.
It's just
When
funny
the sun
because, pause
is
it.
above the Northern Hemisphere.
So they say that the Earth moves at 15 degrees per second. And when you ask them, well, how do you calculate that? Well, they say, oh, we measure what the stuff in the sky is doing. Right? That's how they're telling you that the Earth is moving. Because when we ask them, well, do you have any experiments where you show the Earth moving? They say no. We have to measure the sky.
It's the sky rotating. And that's the thing. People need to understand that the first person that has any credit for saying that it's Earth moving other than the sky was Pythagoras. And so this is ancient Greece philosophy. This is paganism. And he literally was the leader of a cult. He said that Earth was moving and not the sky. And it took really until the 1600s. There was remnants of this Pythagorean cult, like Sir Isaac Newton gives his shout outs to Pythagoras, that this cult continued and really stood up and propagated the idea that it was the Earth moving and not the sky. And so it's really only been like the last 400 some odd years that this notion has been pushed, and it's really probably not until truly around the 1950s that it was really accepted, because we know that even back in the early 1900s, guys like Einstein were brought in with theories of relativity to do the mental arguments to make the frame of reference be interchangeable, where It could be the sky that's rotating, or it could be Earth that's rotating. It was really the moon landing hoax that started to solidify it in most people's minds. So it's not that old. It really isn't.
For 6 months, only this side of the sundial will be illuminated. For the other 6 months, when the sun is over the southern hemisphere, this side of the sundial will be illuminated. During the 2 equinoxes, the sun will travel directly around the edge of the sundial itself. Now, I'm currently located in the southern hemisphere, and I've built the sundial accordingly. If I was in the northern hemisphere, I would have to flip this plate over for it to function correctly. This sundial has
Upside
to be
down.
polar
Shut
aligned,
up, Wolfie.
just like an equatorial mount.
Sorry, just funny the way he said it. I have to flip this over.
Well, so in order to get the scale, the way these numbers are worked out, to get it to work correctly in the north, you would turn this around and then the numbers would be correct again in the north. So I guess that's the reason why he brought it up.
And that means this orientation is towards the north, and the gnomon is pointing up towards the south celestial pole. Without that correct orientation, it's not going to work. And this is how the sundial arrives in kit form.
All right, so get your kit, everybody. Adam Fink told you to get a sundial. Here's a $10 option out there, and this is Equatorial. If you set this up, it'll literally tell you when the equinox happens. This is the hidden wisdom that Adam Fink didn't think that you were worthy of knowing about, because 9270 eliminates the possibility of the Freemason New World Order AE map and model. That model has the sun and moon doing circles. And if you're doing circles, it can never rise 90 east, set 270. And it has to absolutely ignore south of the equator. So it's an absurdity. It's absolutely ridiculous. So let me just talk quickly, and then I'll give the screen share over to you about when we're looking to for the equinox. So I want to start in Toronto, and I'm looking in March. This is timeanddate.com. And so when you look at the beginning of March, you can see that these compass headings, 99 and 261, all right, so this is south of east, and this is south of west. And they're going to be working themselves closer and closer to 9270. And we get down here into this range, and the first time I see 9270, I see it on March 18th. I hope everybody can see this. March 18th, 9270. It's the only day that we have 9270, and it comes in at 12 hours, 3 minutes, 59 seconds. So this is 4 minutes longer than 12 and 12. If we go up a day, we have 12 minutes, 58 seconds. This is 1 minute longer than 12 and 12. And then we get to 57:57. This is like 2 minutes less than 12. So if we're going by equal day and equal night, we could say that somewhere between the 16th and the 17th would be equal day and equal night as far as counting seconds in the day. But if we're looking at what a sundial is going to show us, right? If we have it set up correctly, if we have it lined up with the North Pole or the South Pole, Polaris or Sigma octans, then we would be looking for the equinox to be around the 18th. And that's in Toronto. So I'll do Austin next, then I'll do Jerusalem, and maybe the chat could throw out another city for us to look up, and we'll just get a variety. So here's Austin, Texas. Remember our days that we talked about, people. We're scrolling down here. We're looking for 9270. And here in Austin, it gives us 2 days that are 9270. We have the 18th and 19th showing up as 9270. So we have 4 hours and 33 seconds and 4 minutes 33 seconds and 6 minutes 24 seconds. It's really back here somewhere between the 15th and 16th that it's equal day and night. But we have 2 days, the 18th and 19th, that using a sundial, it'd be hard to tell if this information is true. Right? So then let's go to Jerusalem. We're scrolling down here. We're looking for 9270. We have 1 day that is 9270, and that's the 19th. It comes in at 12 hours, 5 minutes, 44 seconds. The 12 hours daylight, 12 hours night would be somewhere back here between the 16th and 17th. All right, so maybe, hopefully the chat gives us some place to look up. I'm going to look up someplace in the southern.
A couple.
I'm going to look up Sydney first because this is south of the equator. This is Wolfie6020 territory. And this is going to be interesting stuff. So let's look earlier in the month here. 100, 260. This was March 1st. So 100 is 10 degrees south of east. And this is 10 degrees south of west. So the sun was rising from south of east. The sun is setting south of west. And these numbers are going to be moving back towards 9270 from having really made the Freemason New World Order AE map and model look crazy stupid. From the equinox on, from the spring to the fall equinox, it doesn't look so bad because it's from the fall to the spring south of the equator that it just blows it apart to insanity. So we're getting to our 9270. And here we go. We have 2 days again. We have the 21st and 22nd of March, 9270. And we're at 2 hours, 6 minutes, 24 seconds, and 2 hours, 4 minutes, 17 seconds. The equal day and night is more around the 24th. So you can see that there's variance, discrepancy. Do you have a couple more places to look up, brother?
Someone was saying Nevada.
Nevada. Should we look up Las Vegas?
Sure.
Is it Las Vegas? Yeah. So we're in March. We're back north of the equator. We're looking for our 9270. And it's coming in 2 days, March 18th and 19th. 9270, 9270. Both of these now were 4 minutes, 27 seconds long, 6 minutes, 45 seconds long here. It's really back here around the 16th that it's equal day and equal night. Do we have another spot?
You could do Ushuaia.
Ushuaia? How do you spell that again?
USH. Is it YA? IA? I can't remember.
I don't remember how to spell it. Let's see here. We can
USHUAIA. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. USHUAIA.
Ushuaia. So this is really as far south as you can go. This beats all the Australia stuff. This gets down to, does it give latitude here? I don't see it. All right, so this is going to be more extreme because it's farther south. In the beginning of March, we're at 104 degrees. So this is 14 degrees south of east, 14 degrees south of west, steeper angles the farther south you go. This is mirrored in the north. They just reflect themselves. The same latitude north, the same latitude south have the same rise and set angles, just 6 months apart from each other. They mirror themselves. So we'll come down here to 90 to 70, the 21st. 5 minutes, 35 seconds over. So the equal day and night is somewhere between 22nd, 23rd, but 90 to 70 coming in at the 21st. So this whole notion of the equinox being March 20th, March 20th, March 20th, March 20th. It's always March 20th. It never changes. Well, no, that's not how it works. You literally have to have the sundial out, and you have to see when the sun passes from being south of you to north of you, or from north to south. It's very measurable, extremely measurable. Do you want to take the screen share, or what do you want to do, bro?
Well, I don't have too much. We could continue to, so we've explained basically how the equinox works, how we can locate it on the map, how we can use the rise and set angles, and the elevations to, position ourselves. What else? How can we also explain this in more depth, maybe easier? I do believe that there are people that are understanding, that are tuning in. And that's great. We're thankful for you. I don't see too many questions coming in. What other topics? How else could we explain this? Like, have we completely explained?
Well, I want to show people the straight line then, if you don't have something to show right now.
Oh, you've got that clip?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the 3D modeling program that we continue to show people. I want to show everybody where I have the cursor set. I have it right on the equator. In fact, if you can see this little box over here where it says latitude, I have it zeroed out. So I'm exactly on the equator. Now, this is continually scrolling. We're March 22nd right now. I'm going to back it up a little bit. I believe this is going to be set to March 20th equinox. All right, just fixed, not fluctuating like we were just showing right now with the data. But so here we're in March 19th right now. And if you watch where it comes down and sets, there's the sunset, boom, the line clicked over one. So now it's coming around on this center line. This is the fourth gate. This is what we've been showing people. It's going to move from north to south of the observer right now. What that means is if you had an equatorial sundial down there at the ground and you're the center observer, now all of a sudden the sun has moved to the north and is going to be illuminating the north side of that equatorial, sundial right there. So it's going each day, it goes a click over, click, 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 click. And if you see the whole construct here, this is all curved to a person's circle of sight. So since we're from the north, let's look at it from the north looking south right here. So we have the sun rising on the east and we have the sun setting on the west. But if we get in here and try to get a nice close view of this, we can see that at the equator, when the sun rises, it's going to be casting a shadow straight due east. At midday, there's going to be no shadow on the equator. That's how you can identify what the equator is. You can mark out every single speck of the equator with these sundials, and you can trace it out, because on the equinox each day, it's going to rise and it's going to create a straight line. This is the only straight line that exists. This is it, the only time. So understand what it is that we're seeing as far as the movement of these shadows. We're already at March 27th. I'll back it up a little bit. So now here we are coming into the equinox. Here comes a sunrise. Boom, the shadows were cast due east. They are coming up to nothing, and then they're going to fade due west. As we're still on the equinox, I'm not moving the location, but as I move the day, all right, so now it's north. Right, do you see how it's north of the equator? We didn't move the location. The sun is rising and setting north. Shadows are being cast down here. This is the whole straight line thing that we were hearing from Wolfie6020. There's so much psyop involved in that. It's ridiculous. Be happy to have him on and go through this step by step with him. We can use the app that he was repping. We could use the same one. These shadows prove that 9270. So let's go back and take a look now at his whole heliocentrism thing. Where is it? This is the brunt of it in my opinion, brother. I'm gonna make it bigger if I can. It's going the wrong way. All right, so we pointed this out earlier. If this is Earth's orbit, this is the ecliptic. He's got the all of heliocentrism has Earth tipped sideways to the sun right here. You see where east and west is on the globe. If this red line is the equator, they have it in red. They have a word here pointing to it saying that's the equator. So east and west, they're pretty labelable. I could put a W right here and an E right here, and it should be really obvious to everyone that the sun would not be rising 90 degrees east and setting 270 degrees west on the vernal and autumn equinox. That right there is like, this is the crux of blowing up heliocentrism lies right here. If you don't understand that in order to get a 90 degrees east, 270 degrees west, sunrise and sunset, that this line right here would have to be flat with Earth's orbit. And that's the only way it would work, right? The ecliptic, this line would have to be flat with this plane right here. It would have to be to get, otherwise, this is 23.5 degrees north of east right here. And this is 23.5 degrees south of west right here. Both at the vernal equinox and the autumn equinox. And then you still have radical problems at the winter solstice and summer solstice, if you were to even talk about an east-west sunrise sunset. It doesn't work here either. But they had to do this because of daylight versus nighttime. So because we have the longer days in the winter in the northern hemisphere, they had to do it like this. Because we have the longer days in the southern hemisphere, they had to do it like this. And that put the Earth sideways right here. And they just expect cognitive dissonance people, mind fried, to not stand up for the fact that the equator, 9270 right here, doesn't line up with the ecliptic. It doesn't. This is big. It's heliocentrism over. This is so the end of Wolfie6020's video is he's saying that flat earthers, nobody's gonna, their cognitive dissonance or whatever, they're not going to be able to understand the problem that lies within. Well, no, we understand, We can show you exactly how equatorial mounts work, why we would use them that way. We can show you how an equatorial sundial works, why you would use it that way. We can show you how having the equator at a 23.5 degree to the ecliptic can't be an equinox. Can't be. Impossible. This is like a mind fry moment. If you don't get this, this is one of those, it's like the person that falls backwards off of a cliff taking a selfie, where all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, dang, how could I have been so cognitively psyoped to not be paying attention that much?
Back off the side of a mountain.
Right? That like I couldn't see that the equator didn't line up with the ecliptic right here. I couldn't see that it was tipped, right?
So there's multiple problems with this diagram as well. When you look at the quarterly turns of the Earth along this path with the said angle of the poles, the problem that you encounter is that you would have completely different stars every 6 months, right? You'd have a completely different sky because you're looking, 80 degrees in an opposite direction every 6 months, right?
There's so many things, brother. When we've been calling them out for like 3.5, going on 4 years. And the question is whether or not people are willing to stand up for the truth. Because the truth is out there. It's obvious. It's evident. You can clearly see here the equator, it's tipped. You're not going to have 9270 at the equinoxes. You got to be sort of dumb to think that you would. Right? But what they do is they just don't explain things well enough for people to stand up and take a stand for themselves. We get these stupid diagrams, that are like, everything's made for like kindergarten. If we had a real universe, there should be able to be like real pictures, real video of all this taking place. There is none. We just have these dumb diagrams, and they don't work either. So what Wolfie did is he showed how the Freemason New World Order AE map model doesn't work, because the sun would always be rising north of east, setting south of west. That, I think if we go to his video, his comments, this is all about debunking the Freemason New World Order AE map model. This doesn't debunk the fact that Earth's a not curved plane. Like I had seen in the comments before, read it for yourself. All these people know that the sun and moon can't be doing circles. The sticks and shadows would prove it. So you got to understand that if the sun and moon were doing circles, your sun, let's look at this from above, would always be coming in from the north of east. So your shadows would always be coming up from the south of west. And it would be always setting to the north of west because it's doing circles. Circles, circles, circles. And so your shadows would always be wrapping in certain ways. But we're right on the equator, people. And you can see that based on the day, year, you can see the amount of movement that it happens in a person's circle of sight right here. You get really far towards the summer, and it's rising considerably north of east, 23.5 degrees, right? Then you get to the other end of the year, it's rising 23.5 degrees south of west. Or no, it doesn't go that far. What is it? 105, 110. It moves within this confine here. So now if I drag down south, we're gonna just eyeball up Ushuaia way down here, like in that channel, South America. Now we're lining this up. We have north to the top. Do you see where the sun rose? Down here at, what is that? It's at southeast, 135 degrees right here. Came around to at 235. So if you're a person on the ground, you're down here near this red building right here, you're the observer. You wake up, you're looking due east. Looking due east, and the sun is coming up from this angle within your circle of sight, and all the sticks and shadows prove it. It comes up and it circles around you. There's your due west out here. It continues way beyond and hooks out. All right, so that's the end of the Freemason New World Order AE map and model right there. It's psychotic to think something like that. This is the path that the sun and moon take around the observer. The stars as well. I mean, they have some peculiar paths. The moon's the most peculiar, but this is all built to a flat plane, everybody. This entire circle of sight. Now, the only thing that would change is if you went up higher, let's say you're at the top of this building, then this circle of sight would expand. And they have all the calculations for that as well. But this is how everything operates. And this is the proof that we're in a simulation. We can go to this new software, right? You can point out with your camera and you can show in your circle of sight these paths, and it's all very identifiable. You can mark these things out and then go set up your camera or whatever, shoot your azimuth and your elevation, and there it'll be on that day. It's the same software as what we're looking at over here. The only nice thing is that other software shows you the path of the moon as well. And like I said, because it's peculiar, it's a good thing to check out. Do you want a screen share, bro?
Not really. You covered it so extensively, brother. There's really not much to add to this. We could field some questions from the chat if you want.
Sure. I'm just gonna move this around, and hopefully people understand as I move this blue dot around. Now I'm back up to the equator. I want to show people what things look like in the northern hemisphere. Let's go up to Toronto, get nice and far north. But yeah, if there's any comments that come in about this, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just show people what happens within our circle of sight, what can be verified. That sundial that Wolfie was showing people, if you're the observer down here and you set that sundial down, you got a clear path to your horizons. It's going to show you when the equinox is. Because when you have it set to the correct altitude, that's going to be based off of your latitude. It's going to be rising and setting on one side of the disk until a certain day, and then it's going to be rising and setting on the other. And that's how you know that we've gotten to the equinox. That's this week. So I could bring up, is this the new moon schedule? This is. So this is for Austin. We're in March. So when is our new moon sighting? You think it was spotted tonight?
I think it was spotted. We were live streaming while it was happening. I didn't go out, but yeah, I think there's some pictures of it up.
All right. So if it was spotted tonight on the 14th, its illumination is supposed to be 2.1%. So this is a pretty young moon to be seen, but 5.7 is sort of late to be seen. So chances are the new moon was sighted on the 14th. And then, like we were showing, the whole hangout has been about identifying when the equinox is. It's really somewhere between the 15th and the 20th that we were seeing. So we got a new moon in right before the equinox, which means that we're going to really have like one of the longest cycles possible, which from our perspective makes absolute sense that this would be like the cycle that ends up pushing the boundaries as far as they can be pushed, because that's just sort of what we're expecting for end times things. So the next new moon, we get to full moon on the 28th. So we're going to go to April. And in April, they show new moon. They call it new moon, right? On the 11th, that's no moon. You can't see it. Now, if you look at these percentages, 0.2% on the 11th, you're not going to be able to see it. And 0.5% on the 12th, I'm going to guess that you're not going to be able to see it. So that this is going to be one of those months that it goes 2 days where we can't see the new moon. This is one of the things that we're talking about. Some months are 29 days, some months are 30. So this looks like a month that we're going to have 2 days where the moon doesn't shine. Our last moon should be on the 10th at 1.9%, 2 days, no moon, and then 2 points, excuse me, 2.7% on the 13th should be our new moon sighting. So then we count 15 days from the 13th, and that takes us to the 28th. And that's really when we got to watch when the new moon sighting is, but what we're looking for is probably going to be the 28th for the celebrating of the Lord's evening meal. Now it's interesting, they show full moon on the 26th here, but you scroll across and you see 98.6%. The next day is the 27th. They have that at 99.9%. That's like brighter, right? So I don't understand why they show full moon on the 26th. So full moon should be on the 27th. Passover should be the day after the full moon. 15 days, right? Because new moon to full moon is going to be 14. And this is how we're learning to keep the Hebrew biblical calendar, and really the focus of tonight's study. So I hope people are grasping it.
Yeah, it's pretty basic the way that we're laying it out. We're covering it from all possible angles. You're actually doing a great job. I don't think it can be done any better. You're pointing it out. It's basic. I think people in the chat are understanding it. Yeah, keep going.
Well, I don't know what else to say other than that, understanding the straight line that tells you that the Freemason New World Order AE map model doesn't work. Let's go back to the equator here quick. We're going to straighten that up. We'll zero it out. All right, it's totally zeroed out. We have north on the left. We'll bring this back to an equinox, spring equinox. This straight line right here debunks the AE map model, and it debunks heliocentrism. It does. This right here, that red line, the equator, would have to be lined up with a the ecliptic or Earth's orbit for it to be 9270, and they have it tipped sideways. They got to do that to keep Polaris and the South Celestial Pole at Sigma Octans lined up. So they can't adjust that. So they are forced to have that red line at a 23.5 degree angle at the equinoxes when we know that it's not true. You just have to be shilled out to accept it. And we're not. We're going to continue to let people know that it's dumb to believe this. It's crazy. And it's a psyop, and it's part of the great delusion. So it is what it is. It works as a filter. It does a great job. There's people that, regardless of how many facts that you put in front of them, they're just going to stick with heliocentrism because they want to follow the herd. And that's what the scriptures warn people. You don't want to be a part of the herd. You want to be on the narrow path. You don't want to be on the main highway, right?
Yeah, you don't want to usually follow the ways of the world. I think it was a good Sunday. I enjoyed the topic. I enjoyed going over this, and we will be covering the equinox as it comes up and passes, and then we'll be calculating the next new moon so that we can cite the full moon starting of the Lord's evening supper meal. We're going to track that. We're going to do the best that we can. And we're going to continue to see what's happening with, mainstream topics. So there's not really much going on in the chat. Must be a lot of lurkers tonight. But thanks everybody for showing up. What other closing remarks did you have, bro? I'll play us out in a minute, but what else could we really say here?
I don't know. I feel like I dominated the mic, and I'm sorry.
No, I really, to be honest with you, bro, my head's not quite in it tonight, but I will be back. In effect, I'm happy that I was able to come up with that intro video for today. That was fun.
It was a banger. That'll be published as its own video. Mm-hmm. This is it's great, the content that we've been getting from these other channels lately, from the standpoint that it exposes them so well. Mm-hmm. We're disappointed to find out that they're just going to stay shills to the end, it looks like, but at least they're giving us some good content to work with.
That's it. Can I get the screen share?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all we're going to do. Continue to try to come up with the best content that we can. And just enjoy what we do. We loved what we do. It sucks that we were away, but I'm glad that we're back. We'll see what Wednesday is like. I know we've got a pretty regimented schedule coming up with gym and work and
yeah, it's just busy. It's having to make the living thing. It's work, right? So if you don't do it, you fall behind, and then you can't do the things that you like to do. So you got to do it, and you sort of got to make hay when the sun shines. So
yep,
we're in that position, and it's tough. We're trying to balance it out. We don't want to store up riches in this world. That's not the objective.
No. We don't want to become rich and famous. We don't want to be heroes either. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Always, Team Yahawahashai is here to try to present actual truth, showing you how the simulation works. And we're always going to be here. We're never going to stop. They're going to have to kill us to make us stop. Brother, you got the last words, and I'll play us out. Thanks, everyone, and please repent, ask for forgiveness, and try to be better every day.
Yeah, if there was something, if you catch a playback of this video, and something you felt wasn't explained that you want to see explained further, please leave it in the comment, because we'll go into more depth. We'll make sure everybody understands it. We want people to know how to use the sundials Adam Fink told people you to get, that he's not willing to explain to you. So it tells us so much about this reality. It tells us that it's not heliocentrism, and it's not Freemasonic New World Order AE map model. We are in a simulation, and we'll continue to show that each and every time we go live. So thank you for joining, everyone. Go Team Yahawahashai.
I bought a ticket to your show. Did Did you see me? Did you know? I was standing in the back.